buddies, welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Spawnhour and Theo Ash, and we are here to recap the entire NFL draft. If you missed it, we already did a day one recap immediately following the draft. Shout out our editor, Manny, for getting that up so quickly, because that was the longest record in Stay Hot history, and it was out within...
In Stay Hot history.
In Stay Hot history.
No, I tweeted that out, and then the State of the League guys razzed me for it on their podcast, and someone sent me a clip of it, which was fair. It was a funny.
Well, because like every episode of State of the League, I feel like is.
Some people have the stamina. We don't have good podcasting stamina over here. We've been getting better. We've been growing. Honestly, our hour 20, hour 30, like we've been hitting that a little bit more consistently. But a lot of, we have some 47-minute episodes out there. You know how it is. I've been in a good mood today for a couple of reasons.
That's good.
There's been two things that have been killing me today. I just thought were so funny. Number one is the 100 people versus gorilla debate. No chance 100 people are winning. You haven't seen this online? Have you guys seen this?
I mean, I've heard of this, but I didn't know it was like something that like...
It's something people are actively debating.
Okay.
It's become popular. I don't know what your guys' stance on this is, but I think the people have no shot. I don't think they really have any good way to deal damage to the gorilla. And I don't know. I think people underestimate like how much of an advantage being able to like break somebody's bone, which is what the gorilla could do just off one hit. Like it's not going to be 100 people for very long. So I'd pretty easily go gorilla.
I go people. The more you expand the scope of what the terrain is and what people are able to do. Like, what do you do? If it's one-on-one, obviously the gorilla is impossible to beat. If it's 100 people all one at a time in like a Coliseum type setting, I'm still taking the gorilla.
Sick.
If it's 100 people all bull rushing the gorilla at once and we're allowed to do that, then I might say the people have the advantage because you could probably pin it down enough, and I think people could choke it, and that's how you deal damage. People go for the throat, like get around its neck.
Yes.
And there's 100 other people, like it would tap out eventually.
You would have to get 100 cheap shots.
You'd have to choke
the
it.
Eyes and yeah.
Here's the issue is that I just don't think 100 people could get at a gorilla all at once. I'll accept that we're talking about hypothetical people who are so aggressive they have no sense of self-preservation. Okay, fair, because like otherwise it's not an interesting question at all. But I won't accept that like we're all going to like spill and tumble over each other like rats, like a swarm. People just don't do that. Really, people are like, well, how do humans win? It's like, well, it's the tool use, right? So if we're allowed to use like spears and stuff, or even just like stuff from around like the terrain, then I think people have a pretty good shot. And if they're allowed to use spears, like it's for sure the people are going to win. The gorilla has literally no chance.
That's why the people would win, though. Like, people can make tools. Like, a gorilla can't make tools.
But I think that's also against the spirit of the question. Because then the answer is obviously yes.
Can gorillas make tools? Like,
how about this?
Not the same way we can.
If there was like a gorilla in, let's do a realistic scenario here. There's a gorilla that is terrorizing like a village or something in Africa. And you don't know where the gorilla is. It's in the forest, right? But there's not like guns or automatic weapons, or let's say you're not even allowed to use a knife. Let's say it's olden times. All right. Before this is humans that they're kind of there. Yeah. This is humans before the Industrial Revolution or whatever. And 100 people have to deal with this gorilla that's been, causing havoc in some sort of way. Who knows? I think 100 people could do it. Like, I think we'd set traps, right? We'd craft spears. Like, if gorillas could beat 100 people, gorillas would be building New York.
I don't disagree with.
We're the top.
I don't disagree with gorillas building New York if they could use tools like we could. We'd be chumps compared to them. But I do think the spirit of the question is asking for a no weapons, no tools, straight up fist fight. because that's
We
what
would
makes it
get killed.
interesting.
Sure.
It's in the same way that it's also not interesting if it's like, would 100 people beat a gorilla? No, because they'd be scared. Well, okay, you know.
Yeah, like Theo, I like your idea of like a bunch of guys just like go out into the woods to deal with this gorilla. But also, if you were like king of a civilization and there was a gorilla causing havoc, how many guys would you send? You wouldn't send 100.
You'd think you'd send more?
I think
Less?
you would send less. Like you'd be like, oh, it's just one gorilla. Yeah, you guys can send
You're sending,
crap,
like,
do
5
whatever
guys.
it takes. Like take,
You're sending
because
the
they would
basketball
hell, they are not sending
You got a
5 guys.
center,
They'd probably
you got
send
a point guard.
they'd probably send like they'd be like, you know, here's my general, pick your 25 best men and go get this shit done. Like
I think they could. I think if they had spears and stuff, or even if they could like set traps, like they'd figure out a way. But if it was like
I
a
think the
Roman
spirit of the
Colosseum
question-
and you took
yes.
100 Americans and just like regular ass people get drafted to do it and they're just put in a stone enclosure with nothing,
Yeah.
like. But that's playing to the gorilla's strengths just as much as.
well, it's a random gorilla versus 100 random people. Right? Like there's gonna be some duds in there. Like
That's very true. Although we're kind of assuming that the gorilla isn't like a dud gorilla. We're kind of
That's true,
assuming we're
like-
facing peak gorilla.
we're facing an
Yeah.
average gorilla, and
This
you're
is a
getting
dying one.
an average 100 people of collective society. So you'll also get like you know, some insane athlete in there that's like super
We'll get some
fast.
Blaiden Kirks in there.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna be scared of the gorilla, real talk.
If it came down to it, you got us.
I do think like 10 waves of 10 people, or how about 5 waves of 20 people? I do think that you could kind of you could maybe get them corralled and take shifts pinning them down and choking them out.
Corral.
I
I
just
think I'd say-
have a hard time like actually imagining that. We've got to find
don't
100
know how-
evil people and a gorilla and
Gorilla.
get this done, man.
After this presidential administration, when we try to figure out what to do with everybody, we're
When I run for
We gotta
president in
test. Our answer.
2028,
I've seen the
when I run
approval
for
ratings.
president
This
in
isn't a hot take.
2028, this will this
thing
will
that's had
abolishing
me-
the highways.
This and abolishing the highways. The other thing that's had me hyped up is Theo Ash being posted by the New Orleans Saints. His breakdown.
Oh no!
Is it-
What?
You didn't
Was it
see
good?
this?
No,
It was. I mean, it was legendary. It was Theo Ash.
no. Like, was it like the? Was it like the Jaguars?
No, it wasn't a Lions situation.
Oh,
where they
like the
they were hating.
I was like, was it like when they? Who's the guy that was talking about the Jags?
fantasy
That
football
was-
AZ.
Yes, it was Fantasy Football AZ. Like
No,
the
they're not
Jags
dunking
posted
on
him,
me.
and then the Lions posted. Okay.
No, I was analyzing Calvin Banks Jr., their first round pick. I broke down 4 clips, like his punch timing and him dealing with a stunt, and then getting to the second level, and then a combo block. And then, yeah, no one on Twitter really liked it. It seems
It was a perfectly fine video. All the quote tweets are trying to get bangers off of good old Theo. But it was like, you know, they were like critiquing the Calvin Banks breakdown, of course.
Yeah, I'm very confused. People were trying to dunk on like a breakdown video. What are we talking?
Well, it's just because
they just don't like people on Twitter don't like me.
Kills me.
They don't like me. They don't like the Saints. They don't like Calvin Banks. They don't like.
I guess I guess people. I guess people in general are anti-Saints.
It's a vocal minority, in my very honest
People on Twitter
opinion.
are
But when you
just
drop,
anti.
that's very true.
They're just
I
anti
agree.
whatever.
Yeah.
They're like it could
I'm
be.
afraid I'm
it
part
could
of that.
be- I mean, that's why you go on.
the number
You don't go on to
of people that I
appreciate
saw
greatness.
as the number of people that I saw on Twitter as Shador Sanders was falling, there was like, yeah, this is because of that one time where he like wouldn't shake the player's hand, or that after he like talked a ton of shit pregame, right? Like that, and they beat them, and he like wouldn't shake his hand after. Or like there was another clip people kept posting it was like, this is why Sanders isn't getting drafted.
Well,
He's not a leader.
Do we want to get into the Shador Sanders? Do we want to get into these grades here? We want to go division by division. I think there's no better place to start than with the Cleveland Browns, who to me had the most interesting draft of anybody. They made the biggest trade. They drafted one of the more like notable players in terms of just like his following, I guess, and Shador, even though he ended up going in the 5th round.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting, and they got some interesting dudes out there too. Like Schlesinger is kind of like a unique sort of linebacker. I like him a little bit more than maybe when we talked about him. I think that he moves really well. He is very good in coverage. I don't disagree about him being light, but I think there's a certain role for him for sure.
And he's a good tackler.
The Mason Graham pick, I mean, we talked about this in the other video, but I think Graham's a good player, even if he is a little undersized. I think the trade is okay, but I would have taken Travis Hunter, so I kind of have mixed feelings about that. I won't lie. I would not have spent a top 40 pick on Quinshon Judkins. I don't think he's that level back. I think there's guys who I think could have comparable careers to him who are getting picked in the 5th, 6th round, truthfully and honestly.
I think I understand why Stefanski likes him. Like, he is kind of the power back.
I don't think he's a bad player. If they give him touches and he's in a good situation, he'll produce. But is he somebody who is, at least with like Henderson, for instance, I get like he's got rare top end speed and can do all this different stuff. Even if I didn't think he should be a 1st rounder, like I saw the vision on why you would want to pick him high in a class that has a lot of solid running backs. Judkins for me just wasn't that. But then they also get Harold Fannin Jr. on top of that, who's just a weird prospect.
He's fun.
I think at the top of the 3rd, it's not a bad pick. I think that's fine. I don't disagree about him. He's got solid feel and he's great after the catch, and I think that'll translate. But I also think you have to make a point to get him the ball, because I do think his route tree is limited. I do. I think he's stiff, and I don't think he's going to be able to do everything that you would ask somebody normal from the slot to do, like just a receiver or whatever. And I feel like playing him in line isn't an option when he's like 230 pounds. So he could be productive, but it's going to take some work for sure.
Yeah, I think my general sense on the Browns is they kind of did the 3rd best thing at every single pick. And I made a TikTok about this. Like you said, Matt, Mason Graham, good player, like really good player. The pass rush duo with him and Garrett is going to be insane. We talked about this on draft night, right? I still would have stuck and taken Hunter. And then even after they traded back, I would have taken Genty. So like, am I mad at the pick? Absolutely not. But there's things that I would have done over it. Same with Schlesinger. I like what Schlesinger brings. But like if I were picking there, like Donovan Eziraku was still available.
It would have been, I won't lie. I mean, I don't want to get too into the mindset of this team should have made this exact move outside of like the top couple of picks. But like, yeah, if I had 33 and 36, it would have been Burden and Eziraku.
Right.
And I don't think they like maxed out on 1st round talents, because when you have those high seconds, it's like you can sometimes get those dudes. And to me, Schlesinger is a fine pick at the top of the 2nd, and Judkins I just don't think is good value. I just don't. Yeah. So I gave their draft, I think, a C+ or a B-.
I give it a B-. The most interesting thing is obviously the 2 quarterback thing they did.
Of course, you didn't even bring it up.
Taking Dylan Gabriel at the bottom of the 3rd. Oh, which is interesting because, I mean, we have to talk about the Shador Sanders fall, because everyone's like, how in the world did that happen? Why is it happening? I think it's simply teams just don't think he's that good. Like it.
I think it's a mix of stuff. Theo, the way that you put it is a wise way to phrase it, in the sense that, yes, he's got some things that he's good at in terms of his accuracy and like his ability to see the field, I think is good. And those are things that are worthy of like taking a guy for. Maybe that makes him a mid-2nd round talent, which, to be clear, when you're a quarterback and you go mid-2nd round, like the odds are pretty against you. But like, okay, I thought Sanders was a reasonable shot.
Yes. The
issue is that if he doesn't have great tools and he's got some playing style issues that he has to rein in terms of like how much he wants to get out of the pocket and create, and then people talk to him and they don't think he's coachable, that's going to be really, really hard to end up taking a shot on him. Because if you feel like, you want to take a long shot on a dude and you don't think you can like mold his game, well, it's tough to get any team to buy in. I don't dislike him as the pick for the Browns in the 5th in a vacuum. I think that's honestly awesome. I mean, it's more exciting than almost anything else they're going to be doing at quarterback. But I will say, I honestly do kind of buy into the suspicion that they were not planning to take him in the 5th. And Haslam making the call sounds absolutely reasonable to me. The Browns move at quarterback like they've got a meddling owner, and they have for a long time. Yeah. And then on top of that, they're sitting here and it's like their quarterback room doesn't even make any sense now. They're going to either are they going to have 4 guys? Are they going to cut somebody who they just spent a pick on? Something's got to give. So we'll see.
Something has to give. It's very weird. I definitely understand why they took Gabriel in the 3rd. It's like the concern with a guy like Milroe is like, okay, his mechanics, like there's a lot that you're going to have to fix, like even though he's a freak athlete. And then kind of the same thing with Sanders, although it's not mechanical, it's like there are things you're going to have to fix. There are things you're going to kind of have to force him to rein in on. With Gabriel, It's like, okay, I'm going to have to get him up to NFL speed, sure. He's short, sure. But like mechanically, he's got it. Like I'm not going to have to teach him like pure football, like day one stuff. And I get Stefanski, like if he was the one that was really clamoring for that, I get him being like, like this is a guy that if we needed, like we need a quarterback to just get in there and play. Cause that was the thing with like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, right? Was like, you couldn't play him because it was just like easy stuff couldn't do it. Right. Mm-hmm. With Gabriel, I feel like he could at least do that. Like it would be easy to just like at least like play a bare bones level of football in a way where like if someone else was far away, like if you got to camp and Sanders was far away, it'd be like we're gonna need to play Gabriel. But like I
just don't think it makes sense to take a guy like that in the draft. Honestly, I mean, you could probably find someone who can, not be DTR in terms of like missing throws or whatever, like pretty easily. I would.
And I don't mean to compare Sanders to DTR. Sanders is a better prospect than DTR ever. Like,
so I don't love the Gabriel pick. I get where you're coming from. I don't love it. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I just think it's one too many.
In the 5th is great value. Like Sanders in the 3rd would have been like, I mean, that's probably where I would have taken like him, Milroe, Shug, and Gabriel would have all been like 3rd and 4th round picks to me. And then Dart, we'll get to the Giants, but like that's the thing where I think people are like, how in the world did Dart go in the 1st, but Sanders fell all the way to the 5th? I think that's what has people scratching their head more than anything else. You have to know
you got to know who you are. I mean, people compare Sanders to Kirk Cousins. They compare him to Andy Dalton, Mac Jones, whoever. I mean, I've done those things. And at the end of the day, all those guys knew who they were. All right, you can be a game manager. You can be somebody who steps up in the pocket and is accurate and goes over the middle. But that's who you got to be play in and play out. Kirk Cousins was not trying to bend over backwards to make guys miss at Michigan State when things weren't there. All right, so how is Shedeur Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins is the best 1-2 check down guy of our lifetimes. And maybe Sanders has the capability to be that if he just locks in, or maybe it's not that easy. And I really don't think there's any conspiracy for Sanders falling. I think Deion drummed up hype, Colorado drummed up hype. They were good, obviously. They turned it around for sure. But there's a lot of good quarterback prospects who fall to the 5th round and we didn't expect it. I mean, what was Sam Howell? He was considered a 1st-round pick. He was in the pre-draft process. Like, he was somebody that a lot of people really were high on.
Got number 1 overall hype.
Yeah, exactly. And he fell to the 3rd round. Did the president get involved? When Sam Howell fell to the 5th? How different are they as prospects, really?
So
like,
funny, dude.
he took a lot of sacks, but he was exciting. If his name was Sam Sanders and he helped turn Colorado around with Travis Hunter, it'd be the same thing. But is it really that different? Or did we all just learn that, like, there's a lot of hype? I really just don't think it was that crazy that he fell with his skill set the more you think about it. Because it's like he gets compared to, like, Andy Dalton or something. And it's like, okay, the upside isn't there, and he doesn't even know how to play like Andy Dalton. He doesn't even know that that's who he is. So like Dylan Gabriel, he knows who he is. All right. He knows how to solve problems, and he knows what kind of athlete he is. And he doesn't take a bunch of negative plays like Sanders does, overestimating himself. And he's really small, and he's old, and he probably won't translate, and he might be a reach in the third round, but he was productive, and he knows what he's doing, and he may not have come into the interviews like acting like it was a recruiting mission and that everybody needed him. Like if that's how Sanders was acting, I obviously don't know. So my main thing is Sanders falling was no conspiracy. It was a lot of things all coming together at once.
I agree.
And it was hard to see, obviously, but it makes sense.
Here's the other thing.
This is whatever. JJ Pegues was good. He fell in the sixth round. There's a lot of Jared Ivey's a good edge rusher. He's good at one thing. He's really good at spilling and taking away inside gaps and forcing plays to bounce. He's got a really specific skill set, but he's not a crazy athlete. He fell all the way to the 7th round, I think, maybe even undrafted. Kobe Bryant was undrafted. Like Sanders is just a quarterback. He's just a guy. He's just a person. He's just a draft prospect like everybody else. And teams didn't like him, and it happens all the time. So I didn't like the Browns draft, to be honest. They passed up on Sanders. I really don't like Schweisinger. I think he's got a fatal flaw. Judkins, I think they took too early with better people on the board. Like I wasn't a fan of their draft, but they did get Fannin, and shout out Dylan Sampson as well. But we got to move on.
Get Fannin. Shout out. I will say one more thing before we move on. Everyone wants to talk about Shador. No one gives a damn about Shiloh, dog. Everyone's like, oh, sure. It's Dion's kid. How did Dion's kid fall to the 5th round? You don't give a damn about him being Dion's kid, dude. No one talked about Shiloh going undrafted. Come on, man. Give me a break.
Shiloh is bad.
Like Shiloh is bad. But this is the best.
I feel like people aren't saying that Sanders went undrafted because he was Dion's kid, though. You know what went he thought of the 5th round. I've seen that
a decent amount. People being like, people just don't want to take him because he's Dion's kid or like.
Right, but they're not saying that being Dion's kid means that you should be a draft pick.
I've seen that too. I've seen like how
that's what Trump said.
That was literally what Trump was. That's exactly what Trump said. Like word for word.
He's obsessed with bloodline because he's a member of a certain party that he's trying to spread throughout the world. That's why he's obsessed with the bloodline. So I don't think most people are like that.
Yeah, maybe not, but anyone who follows him might be.
Yeah, it's true.
But
most of them don't like Sanders. But let's move on to the Steelers, who also had a very interesting draft. And they were kind of on the flip side of the Sanders debates because they are the one team that seemed to have an empty chair for the quarterback position. And they ended up filling it after picking non-quarterback after non-quarterback. But they ended up filling it with Will Howard. Mm-hmm. I don't hate that, honestly. I really think that Howard, by the end of it, was looking okay for certain schemes. Like the go ball was good enough, the rushing threat. Like I thought there were certain schemes and diets of routes that he could maybe operate to the point where if he's your solution round 6, it's fine. But
round 6 is doing a lot of heavy work here, in my opinion. I don't disagree that the go ball was fine, and I'm sure he can hit some. And he's mobile and he's big, but he's kind of a clumsy mobile, and instead of like a true powerful, assertive big, right? So it doesn't like play as good as it sounds, I think. His accuracy, I mean, even down the stretch was really not that great on a lot of throws. Like in the Oregon game, which was an awesome game, but like there were some misses there where it's like, oof. And a lot of throws where it's just sort of like I'm looking at one thing. I don't disagree. There was some times, I feel like particularly in the Texas game or maybe the Notre Dame game, it kind of blend, but that he was able to throw the ball over the middle, like, and layer it a little bit. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, you know. And if he could do some of that and he can be used as a rusher and he can prevent turnovers, like, yeah, I think he could be all right. I don't think that this is a team that took its quarterback issue very seriously. I think they're a team that just doesn't want to swing on QBs. And I understand it because you have to reach to swing on QBs, but I mean, dude, if the Steelers do the same thing again this year that they've been doing forever, after knowing for a fact that they just had a terrible quarterback problem and saying our solution is the backup in a 6th round draft pick, we don't care, Tomlin's in major trouble. This isn't an acceptable answer. So you need to be either right that you don't need to go spend big on a quarterback, or something's got to give here. I understand they're in a tough spot because you need to be drafting highly to get a QB at good value most of the time, right? But you got to make a move at some point. I really don't like that they didn't. I really don't like it.
They should have taken Sanders. Jack Sawyer in the 4th over Sanders. Like, Sawyer's not a better prospect than Sanders. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I can't get behind that at all. Like, a non-bendy edge rusher.
I'm not going to rag on teams. Yeah, go ahead.
I think their draft also signifies that Rodgers is signing there soon.
It could be, yeah. Maybe I'm harping on him too much. That's
if
totally
that's the
fair.
case, Howard in the 6th, I thought was decent value for him as kind of a project. But even then, like you said, I didn't love the value of a lot of their other draft picks, even if you think that what they're doing at quarterback is somewhat acceptable and you're putting your faith in the fact that they have some behind the scenes agreement with Rodgers and he's just taking his time or whatever. Like Harmon in the 1st, Sawyer in the 4th, you know, are any of these picks really home runs or are they all, you know, singles or doubles or whatever? I think it's very fair to say the Steelers had an underwhelming draft.
Yeah, I like the Harmon pick. I don't hate the Caleb Johnson pick in the 3rd. Like, there are some good players in here. It's just kind of like the Browns. Like, did they maximize and did they solve? I mean, if Rodgers doesn't sign there, do they have the worst quarterback room in the NFL?
Yeah, they do. And I'm really just assuming that they know that he is signing there. And it's been insinuated that he is. And I'm trusting that. And if he signs there, I don't hate their offseason because I guess missing out on Geno is the big thing that you should point to and say you should have done this. So I don't love their offseason. But if they get Rodgers, I think he's got more juice in his arm yet than Kirk Cousins, who also could be available. Signing him is way preferable than doing that. It's preferable than taking Shador in the 1st round. So they can salvage this, I think, but it's still underwhelming, and they're still on track to be 1st round playoff exits. Like even with missing on Sanders, right?
Dude,
if they get Rodgers and they say
or Will Howard, do you think they would even make the playoffs?
Oh, hell fucking no.
Yeah.
Hell no. They'll have a losing season if Will Howard is their quarterback. Like, duh.
But he's a winner, man. He just won a national.
He's a winner.
He is a winner. He's going to win 2 more games.
What do you guys want to move on to the Cincinnati Bengals? The other team in Ohio here.
I didn't really love their draft.
Shamar Stewart is not who I would have gone with. But I like the Demetrius Knight pick in the 2nd. I think that's a really good pickup for them. Good value.
I don't hate Knight as much as other people, but at the same time, it is hard to disagree with the logic of he's a very old linebacker who's limited, and you took him with a top 50 pick. Sure. You know, it's expensive. You didn't get a great deal for him. You didn't really get a great deal for a lot of your guys, in my opinion.
I think that's
100%. 100%. I mean, Shamar Stewart in the 17 spot is, to me, fine. But after that, doubling up on linebacker was a miss. Like, Demetrius in the top 50 is a reach, and then Barrett Carter at the 17th pick in the 4th round, also a reach. Like, both of those guys combined makes this a tough draft to defend, I think. Like, Knight would be an ideal 3rd rounder. Like, yeah, he's a bit of a glass eater. He takes on contact with his long arms. But for the 2nd round, you're still looking to take guys with more upside than him. So they really just took some linebacker neutrals or negatives with a big chunk of their draft capital. Stewart's a solid pick at 17. I think they really needed athleticism in their front four to chase down some of these mobile quarterbacks, although that's not even really Stewart's game, I guess. Now that I'm thinking about it, he's more of a speed to power guy than someone who can really go and pursue Lamar Jackson. So you look at this class and it's hard to imagine it being like looking back on it and being like, holy cow, like they got Demetrius Knight, they got Dylan Fairchild. Like it just seems like NPCs. I'm sorry. It does.
You're lower on Knight than I am. I love Knight, man. I think that's a good pick, but everything else,
he's so old and he's clearly so maxed out. And I was thinking about this because my parents got the puppy, right? We're drafting puppies here. All of these guys are, they're so young. They could grow up to be anything, right? Demetrius Knight is like a 10-month-old dog, all right? He can sit, he can stay, he can fetch, right? He knows what he's doing. He's not clueless. But just because he's a 10-month-old doesn't mean he's anything special. He just learned some things, like he's naturally farther along because it's been 6 years in college, right? Like it's not so cute once the other guys get some time and
but they might not figure it out, man. They might not develop. And if he's already good, give me the good player.
I just think there's so many guys who go late, like David Benda, undrafted player out of Texas. He's a 6-year player too, so it's the same thing. But he's undrafted. He can pop people. Like I saw all that same physicality. Like he was great to watch after I watched Schweisinger. All right, because he could take on contact at all. Yeah. But when you keep watching the linebackers, I just feel like there's a lot of Knights out there. So to take him and then to take Barrett Carter, who's just kind of a liability in my opinion, bad draft from the Bengals.
I don't like the Carter pick.
After round 1, which I thought was fine, I thought it was bad.
Well, what about the Baltimore Ravens? I was excited that they didn't take Mike Green, and then they took Mike Green.
That even better value.
It is very funny, but apparently his character, like his off the field stuff, is apparently really bad. So I don't even know if that is a good pick.
It might not be, but now he's on the team, and he's not facing suspension. So they added juice to their pass rush. I think Starks at that point, like we talked about the first round guys.
Yeah.
And they made so many picks: 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. I guess that's all 6th rounders. But that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I thought Starks was pretty good value. Green, I mean, obviously addresses one of their biggest issues on defense, which is like, do they have someone who is a serious, like, just sort of pass rush winner? I kind of think Green will be that, off the field stuff aside. So I thought they there's a certain set of teams that always do a good job of getting good value in the draft, not reaching too hard for their guy or whatever. Ravens are one of them. I thought this draft was no different. I gave them a B+. I think I gave the Steelers a C- and the Bengals a C-.
Yeah, it's all season Ds, except for the Ravens here. They run this division for a reason.
Yeah, they would also get I just think taking a lot of swings is always a good thing when you don't that's kind of what the Rams did a couple years ago, and they were able to replace, Aaron Donald in the aggregate. So how good teams stay good, it seems like there does seem to be a trend here. What division would you guys like to move on to next? I'm feeling either AFC East or AFC South. Give me a bone here.
Let's do
AFC East.
AFC East. And what team would you like to start with? I'm thinking Buffalo.
Sure.
Sure. Maxwell.
I did not like Buffalo's draft. I gotta say, like Hairston in the first. I understand Hairston's value and how he has athletic gifts at the kind of corners after like Barron or even Barron himself just don't. Like this is the most electric corner in the draft, but a reach in the first, he also has character concerns. And then I just couldn't understand their plan after that. They traded up big time to take TJ Sanders. And they already have Ed Oliver.
Fine for what he is. He's fine for what he is, which is like one of those penetrating defensive tackles or whatever. But I don't view him as a particularly special guy. I just rather think like he's a guy who's like, you know, maybe doesn't have the crazy strength of somebody who's bigger, but you get what you pay for there. And it's like, okay, there's a role for that dude, but I don't know if he's somebody I think is like particularly dominant. And they get Landon Jackson, somebody who I think is really stiff, right? And we talk about him as somebody who's on the ground a lot. I'm not the biggest fan of him either. Deion Walker is a cool pick because, like, you know, once you get to day 3, it's like kind of anything interesting is good. And you're just trying to avoid like picking a bunch of guys nobody's ever heard of, which, you know, always seems to, you'll be like, there's this guy and this guy and this guy still on the board. My team's right around the draft. And they draft some, you know, whatever dude who you never hear of again, of course. But Walker is just an interesting body type. Be very weird to see how he pans out. But yeah, I thought their draft was only okay. I didn't think they got great value at any of these spots.
It's just weird. I don't know what to make of their defensive tackle room. Sanders and Walker are just the two weirdest watches in the whole draft. Like Sanders almost plays DT like an off the ball linebacker or something. Like he just doesn't seem to play it like everybody else because he's not necessarily this like big downhill player. He kind of likes to stay at depth. And he likes to kind of guess where the quarterback is going to go and try to get a jump on the contain sometimes. He's really stout at the point of attack, but his overall get off and pass rushing juice is a little questionable to me. And then Walker, like I said earlier, he plays like Jokic. If Jokic could play football, like ball is snapped, he stands straight up. He can't bend to the quarterback or chase anybody down, but man, is he a genius hand fighter and he recognizes the plays. So he gets a lot of production still. So I like Walker. I have no idea how he's going to translate. Same thing with TJ Sanders. Like I kind of like his skill set. I think he's smart and I think he's good against the run, but he wasn't worth trading up that high for. And Hairston was a bit of a reach to me. Landon Jackson, I guess at value in the 3rd round is fine. Jackson Hall is a big run. I like grabbing run blocking tight ends. I think they're going to be more and more valuable as nickel becomes more predominant. So I didn't hate that pick. I didn't hate getting Dorian Strong in the 6th round. I thought they pulled it together more on day 3. But yeah, through the first 2 rounds, I was like, man, the Bills are really not doing so great.
And they also took a good number of swings at it. So you can't be, what is that? I'm seeing 9 picks. So
extra 5th, extra 6th. So yeah. Who knows?
Can't be too mad at it. But yeah, nothing extraordinary, but maybe better than the Steelers and Bengals, we could say. Or maybe
fair enough. I gave him like a C- as well.
Oh, okay. Well, what about the New England Patriots? Taking a look at they took Will Campbell in the 1st. How do we like the rest of their draft?
I loved their draft. I thought that they got a lot of interesting players and had a lot of good value.
Yeah.
Throughout. To me, like Henderson wasn't my like RB2 or anything, but like I said earlier, I understand why you would want to take him early. And even if he isn't necessarily like crazy like positional value, I do think he'll be a good player who can do a lot of different things. Kyle Williams is somebody who I really liked. I think he's an excellent like deep threat in terms of not only his speed, which is so obvious when you watch him, but in terms of like little things, getting himself open. His route running is good. He's a smooth player. He can track the ball well. I don't think his hands are a huge plus, but I also don't think there's something that's going to seriously slow him down. And then Jared Wilson is a crazy athlete and somebody, Theo, I mean, you were talking about like could be a 1st round draft pick. So I thought they had good value across the board. And I like that they got Drake May some help.
Yeah, their first 4 picks, all bangers on offense, I thought. And then Joshua Farmer in the 4th round was great value, too, from Florida State. He's just a bit of an orc on the defensive line, just someone who you notice is kicking ass up front, kind of a stout. He reminded me slightly of, like, this is their equivalent of, like, a Mike Daniels, just short, compact, can kind of loop around and still give you some contain and push down on the edge too. So he was kind of a cool, I think he'll be a good piece in the run game, just someone who does the dirty work up front. So yeah, a draft for them, one of the best in the whole league.
Yeah, they absolutely crushed it. I don't feel like we need to kind of sit on that one too long. I know Patriots fans are going to be upset at us, but we got 97 teams to get through here, so we got to keep on moving. Miami Dolphins, they got the Tua replacement, Quinn Ewers. How do we feel about that one, man?
Well, Ewers in the 7th round, he landed in the right scheme at least.
Yeah, I guess I don't hate that. My thoughts were, I'm glad that they tried to add some size. The Dolphins have been kind of a soft team for sure. I feel like those allegations are true. And Grant is somebody who I think at 13 isn't some steal, but you totally can see how someone would be very high on him. Like I don't hate the swing at it. Just in terms of like his size and his movement ability and what he could be as a pass rusher if he could, get it all together. But I think as a whole, like this wasn't like a draft where I'm like, oh, wow, I can't believe that guy fell and the Dolphins got him. And on top of that, I feel like maybe I'm judging them harshly because I think the Dolphins are in such a bad spot as a team right now. It's easy to see more negative than positive, I guess.
I like their draft. I thought it was a little underrated, actually, when I looked at it at the end. I think Dante Trader Jr. could be a bit of a steal for them. I thought he was the most underrated guy at the Senior Bowl. Ollie Gordon could be a good pick for them in the 6th round. He's someone who can really take it between the tackles and has good vision. He was so much more highly regarded last year. And I remember checking out his tape to see if he could be a first-round player. And I thought, no way. This guy is not a first-round player whatsoever. He doesn't have that kind of make you miss ability, that elusiveness. But his vision is really good, and he's kind of tough between the tackles. So for him to land in Miami specifically, that's a flavor of running back that they really could use. So I thought they filled needs. They went with a bunch of big defensive tackles to prevent them from getting just run right through and losing games before they even start, with the inability to stop that. So I thought it made sense. I think they're in a tough spot, but I wasn't too mad at anything that they did.
Yeah, I like the Gordon pick a good bit. 6'1", 226, led the FBS in yards in 2023. Like you said, Theo, just a guy that can get between the tackles. And I like the idea of them just getting bigger at several positions. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty solid draft, but not better than the Patriots by any means.
Yeah, I gave it a C+.
And then you got the New York Jets rounding out the AFC East here. Give it to the Jets fans straight, boys.
Kind of up and down to me. I like getting Azaria Thomas in the 3rd round. I mentioned that he would be a good fit for the Lions, specifically with all the man they play. Well, Aaron Glenn is a Jet now, and it makes sense why he would prioritize that skill set. And getting him in the 3rd round, really a home run pick for them. I thought that was one of my absolute favorites in the entire draft. He's still only 20, great character guy, allowed less than 100 yards in coverage all of last year at Florida State. It was really him and Farmer for the Patriots carrying the entire roster. So they didn't carry him very far, but they were carrying them to something at least. And Armand Membou, we've talked about him. Not that my favorite first-round pick, but you can understand why the Jets would like him with all the Lions coaches. And Mason Taylor was a running back, tight end, that was pretty high on. Super smooth, great plucking the ball out of the air. I thought it was pretty solid picks, nothing disastrous. Maybe Arian Smith you could consider a disaster. His hands were so bad at Georgia. So I thought it wasn't anything special, but they made some picks that I really, really liked, even though there were some
Yeah. I know you're a big fan of Thomas, Theo. My one concern with him was if for a guy that's billed as a man corner, and like that's what he is, but I've seen him lose a number of times on go routes just because of his inability to squeeze guys to the sideline.
Mhm.
And that's the one thing where I'm like, could he, like, to be a number one corner, like that would be rough to deal with at the NFL level. But to go to the Jets, I think is probably kind of, like I've said about some other picks like Starks, I think it's like a good place for him to land. Like if he's going to develop and if he's going to turn into like a really good man corner, he's probably going to do it there. So I end up not hating that pick.
I liked their draft overall. I gave it a B. I thought it was pretty solid. I thought they got decent value. They didn't reach for anything crazy. I liked the Malachi Moore pick.
Yeah,
he was good for Alabama for a while. I don't know. I guess a lot of these dudes aren't necessarily my guys, which is what would make me give them an A. But I don't think that means it's a bad draft.
I think that's fair. Yeah. So we got a couple C pluses, a couple Bs in here, or not even a couple, like a couple C plus B territory guys, and then you got the Patriots getting a really good draft this year. So let's move on to the AFC South, and I think you got to talk about Jacksonville to start things off. Of course, they traded up to get the best player in the class in Travis Hunter, but did they round out the rest of their draft and give Trevor Lawrence a chance to succeed here?
Not particularly well. I mean, the rest of their draft after Travis Hunter, I thought Ransaw was, a bit of a reach. There was not a ton of great value, I thought, throughout it. But if Hunter has a gold jacket at the end of the day, it may not matter. But I'm not the biggest Tootin fan. I do like Jack Kaiser, even though he's undersized. He's one of the better coverage linebackers in this class overall. They did grab my guy, Jonah Monheim, in the 7th round, the center from USC. So it's not bad, I guess, but there's this team has definitely the biggest drop off between their first round pick and the rest of the class. But maybe that just says more about Hunter than the rest of the class.
Maybe. But if they had taken Mason Graham, you would have, like, the draft looks very different for them.
But they didn't.
They did.
You did.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I thought Kaiser was kind of a leader for Notre Dame, so I'll be interested to see if he can translate it all at the NFL level. I don't know. I look at it as a whole. From what I've watched of Wyatt Millum, I thought he was all right. I thought this was a decent draft. I gave it like a B minus. It does kind of majorly hinge on Travis Hunter being like the GOAT. And what I guess what I feel like with the Jaguars is, like, I get it, and I'm really excited for him and Brian Thomas Jr. But have you kind of squeezed out all of the value of getting Hunter, like, by just like basically paying straight up for the very peak of what he could be? Kind of feels like the Jaguars have done that to some extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, play him on special teams too. Get him
right, and it's like
3 positions.
Well, now we're talking about Hunter a little bit differently. No, we're not like, oh, he can play. He has to play both sides. He can't be. If he ends up being, let's say he ends up being like the 15th best receiver, it's kind of a letdown if that's all he is. I mean, it's a huge okay, there's massive pressure for him to be at least that and the great corner as well. And really, it's going to be an issue if he's not all pro level good on at least one side of the ball. If the Browns stuck there at 2 and took him, like if I was the Browns, like I kind of would have just wanted to have the guy, but I somehow end up coming away from this like not really loving it for each side. I still believe in Hunter, so I'm not that negative, if you know what I mean. Like I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about who won the draft, we're talking about like who on paper right now maybe got the most extra value, right? The Jaguars, to me, are not that, even with the Hunter move making sense.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people say the Browns, like, did win that trade in the sense that they get, Mason Graham plus the additional second plus the first next year.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of people be like, the Browns easily won this trade, even though like the Jags do get Travis Hunter out of it, but because you're right, like they gave up Travis Hunter value to move up, and if Travis Hunter doesn't turn into everything that he's been billed as, yeah, it's absolutely a letdown.
I think it's going to be a win-win. Hunter's really the last guy I'm concerned about. To be honest, I'm dead. Like he could be an all-pro punt returner. I'm surprised Dion didn't let him do that. Like I think he's
maybe
just
it's the
throw
one
it
thing
up
he
to him.
can't
He'll
catch. Maybe
get
it's
it.
like the one thing he can't catch
Yeah.
a punt.
He can catch punts, man, and he can. I'm sure that he would be a fantastic returner of them as well. I think he's going to squeeze out enough value at and maybe 3 sides of the ball to. Now I'm taking it to another level. He's going to be all pro 3 sides.
I'm letting him coach too, and he's making.
And I'm letting
picks
him
from
go.
here
He's
on
He's gonna be
out.
telling
coach
him-
of the year, MVP, first team All Pro at 3 positions.
I'm saying the laws don't apply to him in Jacksonville. Just do whatever you want.
That's what the GM was saying in that press conference. No, he was like, "We have just drafted the greatest human to ever live."
I don't know about that, but he's been nurtured and he has talent and he now knows
He's a
how to
beast. I
play
mean, Hunter's a
both
beast. I
sides.
guess you're right. I don't want to bet too heavily against him.
I think he's gonna be
how do you rate his Duval?
Duval.
I don't know. I didn't.
It's better than their coaches.
It's better than their coaches. I agree. It's absolutely better.
I think it is Hunter and unfortunately some NPCs, to use that term again. But that's okay. And Monheim, the GOAT.
I do like the Kaiser pick. I think that is
And Kaiser. I do like Kaiser.
Yeah.
I do like
I like
Kaiser.
that pick a lot. So that brings us to the Indianapolis Colts. They did get Tyler Warren in the first. They got JTT in the second. Does this draft move you guys? Riley Leonard in the 6th, just in case Anthony Richardson doesn't work out. They've got Notre Dame's QB.
They had an okay draft, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, we've already talked about Warren. I think he's someone you also have to work to get involved, but he can be a blocker, and I think he's great after the catch, which will translate. But maybe it's fair to have some questions about how full his route tree is, and it's ridiculous to compare him to Brock. JTT, I'll be real with you, bro. I just think he's kind of too stiff and isn't bursty enough to be an elite edge. I wouldn't have taken him with the 45th overall pick. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. He is a good processor, and maybe they plan to drop him into coverage a little bit more and use him in different ways. So I could see it, but it still doesn't scream dominant player to me. DJ Giddens is a back that I like a lot. He's super, super talented from what I've watched. He's naturally shifty. It's easy to like all day 3 running backs because it's like their path to getting time is very simple, and you can sit there and that guy's solid. That guy's solid. But I really think Giddens was maybe my favorite of all of those, although I don't know where Martinez ended up going. Did he get drafted at all?
7th round to Seattle.
That's a really good pick for them. But Giddens I thought was good too. The Riley Leonard pick, I mean, he's a quarterback. Very
he's
low.
the next Julian Edelman.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, there you go.
But he's a tight end instead of a wide
What
receiver.
about who's the quarterback that the Raiders drafted?
Cam Miller from Wyoming?
No, the other one.
Did they get 2?
Another guy, yes.
That's not a quarterback. That's funny. But yeah, Riley Leonard finally
you
gives.
had like a 4-3.
There we go. But yeah, Riley Leonard finally gives Anthony Richardson the quarterback, the wide receiver. Holy cow, the tight end that he needs. But I also like the JTT pick. I'm higher on him than you, Matt. I think he's kind of like He's kind of like Michael Williams, where he's just a good piece in an overall defensive line, especially a Luanarumo defensive line, where he might be dropping into coverage more than usual, because I think he's natural at doing that. He's good at setting the edge in the run game. He's big and powerful enough where he can kind of loop, stunt, and penetrate inside and not get mauled by guards. So I think as an overall piece, like he's going to be valuable for the Colts. But I agree that like his overall first step and pass rushing chops and general pass rushing athleticism isn't where you'd expect for a 2nd round pick. But that doesn't mean that he isn't of value. And if you have a concise pass rush plan for everybody, I think he can be a really valuable part of that. So that was my favorite pick that they made overall, actually.
Really? I will say when I look at like JTT and Emeka Egbuka as two guys that like could have came out last year but stayed at Ohio State, I found myself liking Egbuka more this time around than I did last year, but I found myself feeling like kind of the same about JTT. Like I feel like my evaluation on him didn't really change. So
yeah, I felt a little bit better about him as time went on, just thinking about all the different ways and all the different things he's like pretty good at. But yeah.
Fair enough. And then that brings us to the Houston Texans. Did CJ Stroud get some help, or did they fail him?
I think they did a good job. They traded back, always a good move. They ended up with 2 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks and drafted a ton of guys who start with J. It's 2 good players that
Iowa did draft a lot of J's. I didn't even realize that.
Both Iowa State guys are legit, I think. So to get both of them, very solid. Tank Dell, it's sad to think about what this means for his career, but if it really is over for him with too many injuries and Diggs is gone, all of a sudden, yeah, wide receiver is a massive need. Mechie's hands are unreliable. Hutchinson's a bit stiff. Noel has take the top off speed. Huge first step out of his break at the line of scrimmage, or out of his stance at the line of scrimmage. Like so explosive. Wiggles around contact, like runs some ridiculous routes. Like he is a real problem to try to defend. And then Higgins is the contested catch master. So to trade back and get both of them, I thought was a nice move.
I'm not as high on Higgins. I agree with the wrapping around, but he doesn't really high point the ball a lot. And I wonder how that's going to play out at the next level. But he made it work, and maybe he's one of those guys that continues to make it work. I thought this draft was all right. I agree about Tank Dell, though. It is a bummer.
Yeah, and I still probably would like to have seen them address offensive line more than like trading back, cool, but like, dude, their offensive line like is gonna stink.
It's true. I mean, they went out and spent a premium pick on an offensive lineman. I just don't agree with the mindset of we've got to take certain positions.
I know.
So,
and like, maybe that is true. Like going BPA would be like obviously the best thing to do. And maybe this is more critical of like what they did in free agency than what they did in the draft. So
I will say, yeah, Higgins and Ursary, I don't think they're bad players, but I do think there may have been better where they were taken. Ursary is kind of tough because offensive line and specifically tackle wasn't the deepest group in this year's draft, but I also feel like 216 is a bit of an overpay for him. I just didn't love how tall he played, and his overall. I expected his anchor to be better than it was for how big he was. It just didn't seem like he was a real dominant tackle. But what they're banking on is it was a Slowick problem. Like the fact that they couldn't pick up a stunt was more coaching than talent, and that they can improve greatly with the same players. And I don't think that's a crazy thing to think. And I also like the Jalen Reed pick in the 6th round. He's somebody who really flies around, physical, creates a lot of havoc. All those Penn State safeties were worth taking. So, yeah, I thought this was a good draft. Again, having 4 picks in the first 2 days is going to be good for them. They've recouped their investment in Will Anderson. Like, remember they traded up big time for him, but the last 2 drafts they've been trading back, so it's kind of evened out in the long run.
Yeah.
So I like that strategy. I think their plan this year has been in the works since they made that Anderson trade.
And then we have to finish things off in this division with the Tennessee Titans, of course. They took Cam Ward number 1 overall. How do you feel like his supporting cast is? How do you feel like the defense is looking after, 6 rounds of 9 draft picks?
I thought it was an okay draft. I mean, we talked about the Ward selection already.
Yes.
Kevin Winston Jr. is somebody who a lot of people were high on. Me, not so much, but I can't deny that he is a crazy athlete and he is super physical. I just hope that he becomes a little bit faster of a processor. Helm is also someone that I wasn't that high on, but more as like when he was in second round talks, I didn't think he was completely special. When you get him at 120, all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe he's a little bit more all around. You know, you start to think about that in a different way. And then the Stanford wide receiver, I think where he went is super interesting. I agree that he is not a super high pick, but I'm excited to see how they use someone who, you know, moves really well for somebody who can block like he can, right?
Yes.
Yeah, using him as a power slot, inserting into the run scheme is more than worth a 4th round pick, even though his general stop-start suddenness isn't where you'd expect a elite wide receiver to be at all. I thought they crushed it with this draft. They took a bunch of kind of my guys after Cam Ward. Oladeo from UCLA, I think, is going to be a really good player. They just moved him from off the ball linebacker to edge. He is a really strong run defender. He's got real speed to power and pocket pushing ability. He's got a cross chop move and a little bit of bend. I think he's ascending. It was an expensive price they paid in the 2nd round, but I'm not surprised he went there. And then Winston, the most physical safety in the draft for my money, and a crazy athlete who can really fly around. I think if he develops at all, that 3rd round slot is going to be a steal. I thought it was a great idea to reunite Ward and Restrepo as an undrafted free agent. I mean, that guy just, he's good, man. Like he makes crazy catches. I've seen him trip and fall down and he's like on his back and he made a catch anyway. And his yak is pretty good. He has got a good feel for everything, I thought. And I think becoming an undrafted player makes him more powerful. I would have expected a team to kind of overdraft him based on the production. Now that he's the little slot guy, undrafted with a chip on his shoulder, playing with Cam Ward, he's gonna be a Super Bowl MVP.
I like that. I agree with you, Theo, on Restrepo. I think that's like insane value for him to go undrafted. I didn't think he was like crazy, but he felt like the only receiver in Miami that was able to kind of exist in Cam Ward's sphere of anticipation.
Yeah.
Like everyone else was just kind of off doing their thing. When scramble drill was happening, guys were like walking around.
Yeah.
Restrepo's the only one that's like fighting back to the ball, and I'm like, okay, this is like a good, like at least a player who you can like draft in a sense. So
yeah.
I like them getting him. I saw dude, I don't know how to pronounce the Stanford wide receiver's last name, Elix somethings. I saw Brett Coleman compare him to Robert Woods. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's not a bad comp.
So that finishes off the AFC South, and we have one more division in the AFC, and that is the AFC West. Kansas City. Did they really, truly crush this draft?
I'm afraid so.
I'm afraid so.
Yeah, they got Josh Simmons, and it sounds like the reporting is he fell just as much because teams don't like his football character as much as the injury stuff. When I'm like, well, then that's crazy because he's going to develop into an all-pro in Kansas City. They take guys with character concerns all the time, and it seems to work out for them.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a good pick. We've talked about him ad nauseum on here, and it's all been positive for a reason. It falls into the category of a good team getting a player falling in the draft. I guess it seems like to me a lot of the character stuff is like he's not an ankle biter or a kneecap crusher or whatever. To be clear, I kind of think that stuff is nonsense. Mostly, I think there's a lot of different ways that a lot of different personalities that can have good NFL careers. So if I just don't know if I agree with worrying too much about that. Outside of that, I thought it was a fine draft. I know Royals was pretty good at Utah State, and I know you liked Lott a lot, Theo.
Yeah, I did like Norman Lott a lot. He gets this reputation as a rotational pass rusher. Like he can't be on the field on rundowns. And I just don't think it's true. Tennessee had hockey shifts with their defensive line. Like 4 guys would be out there, then they'd go out, and 4 more guys would be out there, then they'd go out. There were 4 more guys would be out there, then they'd go out. Like there was 3 distinct lines of guys getting subbed in and out, and I don't think it meant that any of them were horrible run defenders or anything like that. It just meant that that's where their talent was, and they wanted to get a lot of recruits on the field so they don't transfer away. And for Norman Lott, he was by far the best guy. Like he comes on his shift, he wrecks the game, and then he would get subbed out. And it didn't have anything to do with him getting like killed versus the run, although maybe he's not like, Jordan Davis or anything, but he's fast into your pads. He's got this low pad level. He's got 70th percentile arms. Like he would lock out and create some knockback and tackle the running back. Like he did the things I wanted to see. So I like that pick. Him and Elijah Simmons, who signed a free agent contract with the Cardinals. That was my favorite line of the Tennessee groups. So I liked both of those pickups a lot. And then Jalen Royals is a good sleeper. He was standing out at the Senior Bowl. And I know you like that, Matt. Senior Bowl wide receivers. Brashad Smith, kind of the same thing. Good value to go with running back in the 7th round and get him. Unless there's an Ashton Genty out there round 1, you don't need to be taking running backs like in the 1st or 2nd to be good at running back. Like Isaiah Pacheco, they won the Super Bowl with in the 7th round. I think Brashad Smith could be something like that. So I thought from top to bottom, they got really, really high end players, especially their first 2 picks. Like I really think those 2 could be super.
Yeah, I mean, Theo, do you know who else the Chiefs have on their defensive line? Another one of your guys, but not from this draft.
They've got who?
Siaki Ika.
Oh yeah, the big DT from big nose tackle. I forgot about bro.
Yeah, from Baylor. Yeah, so just thought that was a cute nugget of information for you. But yeah, I thought they had a really nice draft. Crushed it. How do you feel about the Raiders? I mean, obviously they got Genty, but after that, they needed to kind of surround Geno with some more weapons. We're talking about receiver. Do you feel like they did that?
I loved their draft. I mean, Genty is one of my favorite players in this class. And them taking him at 6 is awesome. I don't really care about the positional value stuff enough to, well, it's like I was thinking about this, the surplus value, sure, it matters, but you're the reason why you're taking him, even though he may have lower surplus values, because he may have the highest chance of actually being good, being great, being a game changer of anybody. So it's been balanced out by just the type of prospect he is. I love the Darian Porter pick. I can't believe we didn't realize that guy's a Raider as we were watching him. He's an insane athlete, a really funky player. He's got really interesting ball. Like he's hardly played. He's injury prone. He's got one of the weirdest profiles there is, but somebody with his movement skills and who looked pretty like instinctual as a corner at times. I thought I'm excited for. I like them going back. He's a bigger guy. A lot of people talk about, him being able to be like sort of a big slot and a threat there. If you wanted something you heard a lot is like, if you wanted Fannin, just go get Besh. I'm mispronouncing it, and I can get behind that. And then they addressed offensive line as well. I thought they did a pretty good job as a whole.
Besh is super nice. I wish they could have gotten offensive line a little bit earlier, because there is truth to the fact that a lot of the reason that they had the worst offensive line last year or had the worst run game last year is offensive line. Like, think about how good Josh Jacobs is for the Packers. He was on the Raiders, didn't do much his final year, right? So I agree. Genty's going to do more to help the run game than anybody else they could have picked. But I would have liked tackle to come off the board a little bit earlier, but Beck and Porter are such strong picks that you can't really quibble with it. I mean, Besh is such a instinctive wide receiver. I feel like he just understands how to make you miss, how to catch the ball, like how to just do every little thing he needs to do. The Packers took Savion Williams in the 3rd round. Craziest athlete you'll ever see. All right. Like, just unbelievable potential. But Besh is clearly better than him by, I think, a lot, because he just is a better route runner. He attacks the football better. He understands the tempo and timing and how all the defenders are playing and how it all fits together. Like he's ready to be a pro and an impactful player as a pro. So their first 3 picks were all bangers to me. And then in day 3, like JJ Pegues,
I was going to say your guy.
my guy. They got Brady's Edelman by taking quarterbacks who might be wide receivers, which is just fun, I think.
So funny.
Cody Lindenberg at Minnesota in the 7th round, I think, was one of those linebackers that I was talking about earlier with Knight, where it's like there are guys who are pretty physical and deliver a little bit of pop that you can get in round 7 that are pretty good, and he's one of those guys. So I enjoyed that pick. They took big swings at tackle. Charles Grant from William and Mary is obviously coming from the middle of nowhere, but crazy fluid, a good fun project to work on. Same thing with Caleb Rogers, like notably good athlete for the position. So if just one of those 2 hit, it'll be the best, 3rd round pick that you could make. So they to me had one of the better drafts, definitely.
We're gonna get Geno Smith throwing to Cam Miller, throwing it all the way back to Tommy Malone, throwing it to Brock Bowers, who's gonna lateral it to Ashton Genty for a touchdown. That's gonna be the Raiders' offense.
It's too easy.
It's too easy. You can't stop it, really, truly. I really
they're the best end of game lateral. You need to go 80 yards.
Honestly, and you know what?
Hidden talent.
I respect that, no one has ever tried to really game plan for that, and clearly they are. So Broncos, we talked about how good of a free agency cycle they've had, and I know we like the Barron pick in the 1st round. How do you like the rest of their draft?
Kind of fell off after the Barron pick.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. RJ Harvey in the 2nd, I don't have anything against him in particular, but this is again a pick where is he special enough to the point where he's worth, taking over just like a couple of these guys in the 3rd round, or not in the 3rd round, but day 3. I'm not 100% sure. And then Pat Bryant, I thought was going to be more of like a deep sleeper. This guy's kind of a weird archetype of player, but we'll see what he's got. Because he's pretty slow off the line. He's the opposite of bursty. So I liked the Barron pick, but I don't know if they spent the next 2 picks on offense, 2 pretty premium top 75 picks, we'll call it. And I just feel like they didn't get that much out of it. They could have done more with that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's
the offensive weapons they got, to me, leave a lot to be desired. I know, seeing the draft over expected value charts. All right, let me whip out the calculator real quick. They're at the very bottom. All right, they reached on a lot of players day 2, and you can like them. And I know a lot of people have RJ Harvey as a sleeper, but he is very small, and I think there is statistical evidence to back up when you're reaching that much, it's probably not going to work out for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the consensus board is a big deal. And there's a difference between having a guy as a sleeper. I mean, it completely changes the way that I talk about prospects. Like DJ Giddens or whatever. I like him, but if someone took him at pick 34, I'd be like, ooh, this and this and this. And instead, when you pick somebody on day 3, you can look at their upside, and they're like, if they make the roster, you'll be smiling, right? So I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of their draft, but overall, I like their offseason, and I'm excited for their defense. So
yeah, they needed to go from good to great on defense this offseason, and that's what they did, in my opinion. The Bills ran over them. The Ravens shredded them, even though they were the number 1 team statistically on D. This year, I think, and it was kind of hard to think, like, man, how are you going to improve when you're already number 1? Like, is it just going to be a situation where a defense regresses very quickly, which you see happen all the time. And to me, they made the moves for me to say, like, no, that's not going to happen. They're going to, in fact, be a better defense than they were last year. They are going to be translatable to the playoffs now.
That's a good point.
And that can't really be overstated.
Yeah, I think that is a good point. So that brings us to the Chargers to finish off the AFC West, and we'll get into the NFC here. Amarian Hampton in the first, Trey Harris in the second. How do we feel about this LA draft? Is it going to be Herbert's fault is my question.
Yeah, hopefully not. There's a couple of things about that. Number one, it wouldn't be Herbert's fault no matter how they drafted because he doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't mess up. Yeah. He doesn't throw bad passes.
That's true.
So the question is there a roster and supporting cast around him that will allow him to do what he's destined to, which is win MVP and go 17-0 and win every playoff game? I liked their draft. I think Omarion Hampton at 22, like, it's not crazy great value. Okay. It's true what they say about the running backs, and Hampton starts to belong more in that tier where is he so much better than everybody else that you want to spend a first round draft pick on him? I'm not 100% sure. Especially when it's like guys around that range, like who were like a wide receiver who are going, I thought were really, really strong. Those guys are probably going to have a bigger impact than what you do at running back. But I do think he's very good. I think the stiffness that he has is real, but I think he has a running style that's built around it. He hits the hole hard. He's very, very physical. And he's got good speed for somebody his size. Maybe it's not the craziest Ashton Genty long speed, but I don't think it's bad. There's levels to it. Trey Harris is also an interesting pick. He was starting to get some like really crazy hype because his like yards per route run is like flukishly high. It's like 5 yards. It's like 5. It's like, okay,
it's
well,
5. It starts with a 5.
That's pretty nuts. I wasn't quite as high on him, but he's one of those dudes where I think it's easy to imagine his archetype working in the NFL, where he's this big, physical, down the field receiver. There are some limitations with that. I think his speed off the line is more build up rather than just something where he's just like a flash. And his route running is like, I feel like probably going to be a little limited, like he's going to have a certain route tree he sticks to. That type of player can be successful. But he's probably not going to average 5 yards per route run unless he's the greatest player of all time. Not in just this sport, but all of them.
I think he's a more fair Nico Collins comp than Jaden Higgins. I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Higgins got that comp a lot. I think that Trey Harris has more of a route running ceiling there and more athleticism to make that outcome potentially possible for him. But I don't think he's I still don't think either of those guys are nearly fast enough to be Nico Collins. So, yeah. But I really like their day two in general. To get Harris, it was a good move and big time help for Herbert. I believe in the ceiling there with him. And I'm a big Jamari Caldwell fan for Oregon. He is a nose tackle who can get pressure, pretty rare. He can really kind of flow with the blocks, like get on one knee, get on two knees, like take whatever form is needed to hold up against the double and just pop back up like nothing happened and sack you. I think he's got kind of a special athleticism in that way. Plus all the pressures. It's like there's a real ceiling for a nose here too. So those were two good swings at positions they really needed, especially defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I'm going to be completely honest. We are not getting through the other 16 teams. I
was going to make a proposition. We could do a part 1 and part 2.
Let's do a part 2. Luckily, we did it in a way where the second video makes sense, but we're just not going to get through another 16 teams.
I'll miss my flight.
Yeah.
Do you want me to redo the intro or?
Nah, I think you can just leave this in. People will get it. I will say, and here's the thing. They'll know it's coming because there's going to be 15 minutes left in the video. We're going to be 17 teams down, and maybe we do need to redo it because what are we going to title it?
Just say part 1. AFC
Okay.
grades,
And then we'll do part
Yeah,
on
AFC.
Wednesday. Yeah.
All right.
and they'll get it. I trust
Then
our
they're gonna
fans.
listen to the intro and they're gonna realize our hubris and
I think Stay Hot fans have listened to enough that that's not going to shock them.
Yeah.
I think they've heard our
And
mock draft where we spend an hour on the first 10 picks and
yeah.
15 minutes on the rest.
We paused down. It's like, guys, we gotta pick it up. And then nobody nobody does.
Okay,
So
no,
it's just
we
gonna
did
take
pick it
forever.
up. We spent like 30
picked it up.
minutes.
Okay, well, we
spent
didn't
30 minutes on the Browns. And then-
To be fair, we spent so long in the Browns because of Sanders. It's like the big thing at the draft. But
but
I'm sorry.
we
I'm
got
sorry,
through
everybody.
The rest of
It's-
the teams in like an hour, so like I'm not too mad.
and I'm sitting here. I didn't know the order we're doing it, so I'm sitting here having to look up and like re-find on my document everybody's draft and all their picks. Because I had them all in alphabetical order. So
Yeah, and we're going by division.
when
I'm
we
doing
do
the
it next
same
time, I'll
thing.
have it by division. Yeah, I'll have it by division. It'll be
But
fire.
it's all good. It's all good. Everyone that's watching, they all understand. I'm sure they definitely won't be like, you guys just had the. I was prepared to tweet out like this was going to be the longest episode in Stay Hot history back to back, like, and then when we beat it again, but no, we didn't. We didn't beat it again.
We're just not demons like that.
We're just not demons like that. Also,
We're fake demons.
Also, Theo has a flight to catch, so we're trying to be considerate of that as well. So, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Stay Hot. We will be back to finish up our NFL draft recap with our Wednesday record, Thursday release episode, and we'll be back on our regularly scheduled programming here shortly. So, until then, and until next time, as always, from your favorite three fellas here at Stay Hot, we will catch you on the flippity flop.